initially it was going fine up to 1 or 2 postponements, but then it was too much that 4 times the exams got postponed. And after that I really tried and reduced my hours, at least because I thought that if I continue going in the same pace I would not be able to sustain till the end.
Right.
So I reduced my hours, I diverted myself more, indulged in other activities as well. But I did not like give up in the end, because I always thought that if I have done so much up till now, why to give up when the exams are so close. So that time I somehow balanced those things there.
It's not often that one gets to sit down with an All India rank holder and have a conversation. But we at Unacademy meet and celebrate these special individuals regularly. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Chamomile Tea with Toppers, an initiative by Unacademy. And I am Rishabh, your host for today. Well, we have our tea with us and we have our topper. So let's welcome her. Her name is Komal Jain and she has secured the top rank in the CA exams in November 2020. Hi Komal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing?
All good.
Great. So before I start asking questions to Komal, I have something to say to our viewers about Komal. She has been an academic achiever par excellence throughout her life. She has secured 95.8% in her 10th standard, 94.42% in her 12th standard. She achieved an All India rank of 4 in the IPCC examinations in 2017. And she secured rank 1 in the November 2020 exams conducted recently with a score of 600 out of 800. So tell me, Komal, how does it feel to have achieved so much at such a young age?
So definitely the feeling is great, very, very overwhelming. It has been like 2 months since the results have been declared, since still it is very difficult to sink in that feeling. So it feels really great.
Great. So right now, as you are a topper, that tag has now got stuck to your name.
Yeah.
So how does it feel when your friends come up to you and say, hey topper, let's go out? When your parents wake you up in the morning and say, hey topper, come for breakfast. So it must be nice hearing that word. How does it feel?
Yeah, so it doesn't happen with parents generally, but yeah, definitely happens with friends. And yeah, so definitely it feels like a celebrity, and you feel like, why are people treating you like this, and what has suddenly happened in a day that has changed the life entirely. So definitely it feels very nice as well, but then it is also pressurizing at the same time.
Of course. So right. So as a topper, when you were preparing for these examinations, before writing these examinations, did it ever occur to your mind that I want to be a topper, or was it that you had this approach that I'm going to do really well in the exams and then let's see what happens? The rank doesn't really matter to me. So what was your thought process at that time?
Yeah, so considering that I had secured an All India rank for an IPCC, so the general expectations from everyone around me and me from myself was also a little higher after that. So you get a benchmark and then you really have to cross it. So therefore rank was definitely on my mind and I really, really worked for it. But something like an AIR 1 was never, thought across.
Fantastic. And so just take me through that day, when the result was announced, in February, like you mentioned, like we were having that talk before. You mentioned that you got the call from the ICAI president. And what were your emotions like throughout that day? To just walk me through what happened since morning. What were the emotions like? Just take me through that.
Yeah, so it was the result day, and my dad, he was trying to tease me, and he was telling me that you keep your phone available, anytime the president can call you. And I was getting so irritated, like, who does this? I'm so already stressed and pressurized, and you're teasing me like that. So I was kind of really butterflies in the stomach and eagerly waiting for the results. And we were really sitting and refreshing the website again and again, and suddenly there was a call on the phone. And in Truecaller, you usually know like who's calling. So it was the name of the president.
Right.
And I was like, no, this cannot be the reality. So still I, took the guts and picked up the phone. And so I was like, theek hai, this means that I am in top 3, because usually only top 3 get this call. So I was like prepared to hear a 2 or a 3, but not a 1 at least. And as I picked up the phone, they said that congratulations, you've got an all India rank 1. And I literally started screaming on the call that, are you serious? I mean, what are you saying? And after that, literally for an hour, we all were numb that what has really happened, and is this real? Is this real? So I mean, the feeling was amazing.
Great. So did you celebrate that day?
Yeah, so actually, the irony is that we usually do not get to celebrate, because as the results are declared, there's a lot of interviews scheduled, and the
Right.
media is there,
Right.
and a lot of calls to attend.
Right.
So yeah, that was a celebration in itself, though, but not the little celebration.
Right. So tell me, how does it feel to achieve all this recognition? People, like you mentioned, these media houses calling you, interviews happening,
Right.
friends calling you, people from all relatives calling you. How does this recognition feel?
So yeah, it is very, very overwhelming. I mean, you are not able to actually realize it, that what is really happening around you. And it is like, in childhood we always think that I want to come on the TV, or I want to come in the newspaper, and everything comes true at once. So the feeling is great.
Cool. So Komal, let's take it back a little.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your early days, your school and your college days. So was there ever this thought did it ever cross your mind that this is what I want to do in the future? And when was that aha moment where you actually realized that this is what I want to do, that CA was my thing?
Yes, actually the thing is that my dad is an accountant, and when I was in my school, this came really instinctively in me that since he's an accountant, I want to be a chartered accountant.
Right.
So that time it was a very naive thought that I had in my mind, and I really did not realize when it actually converted into a very concrete career plan that I wanted to pursue.
Right.
So in the school days, I used to always tell that okay, I want to be a chartered accountant. And when I actually came to college, and when I had to make this decision, I really researched about it, and realizing that the level of knowledge the course gives you and the respect that it commands, so I was like, okay, this is it for me, and I really want to go ahead with it.
Cool. So now that you have reached this juncture, I mean, you have written so many exams in the process. You have gone through this whole journey that starts right from the foundation exam right up to the final examinations. So during this journey, the people that usually have your back are your friends and family. So tell us about the role that they have played in your success.
Definitely. So I think a family has a very, very major role to play. So I think in a course like this, you really need a lot of motivation and patience throughout the journey. When you are studying like 12 hours a day, and you really are very frustrated that what is going on. So these people really play a very important role in actually cheering you up and making sure that you really have that motivation in you. And parents are definitely parents. So whenever you are really upset or bogged down, they'll be there to actually give you that pep talk which you need.
Absolutely.
And friends also are very, very important. So basically friends are something that you always have when you want to actually share everything that is going on in your mind, and they're there to listen, even though they do not understand what is going on. Still they're there, and they'll kind of motivate you and cheer you up. So I think definitely the role has been very significant.
So Komal, throughout the course of this journey, did you ever feel that it was so overwhelming that you really wanted to let go of it all, and it was getting a little tough for you to manage so many subjects at one point, and so much, because you literally dedicate 5+ years of your life to this course? So was there a point where you felt that this is not working for me or something like that?
So in fact there were many, I mean multiple times you get that feeling, and it is pretty normal for a CA student because you always see that your friends are enjoying there, and you are like stuck with this big pile of books in a room, and you can't even enjoy or go for parties or so I mean that really hits you a big big time. And therefore there were many moments which I felt that why did I make this decision, and why am I in this course for once. So I think that was very, very common, and that used to happen multiple times.
Right. So during this course, did you ever feel that of course you do get influenced by people who are around you? So there were a lot of friends, a lot of peers who were with you, who were preparing for the same exam at the same time. So did it ever occur to you that their preparation is going better than me, or were you taking it at your own pace and you were like, it's okay, I'll manage no matter what I'm doing, let me not listen to anyone else?
Yeah, so I think initially this factor was definitely there. So whenever I was in a CPT or IPCC, so that was an initial phase. So that time you actually tend to compare a lot and
Right.
see where you are standing. But then gradually during the course, you realize that everyone is different and everyone takes a different pace, and everyone actually has a different kind of technique to approach this. So after a point of time, I was like, "ठीक है, you can do your own thing and be confident on what you are doing."
Okay, so Komal, now let's get into the preparation strategies, which is one of the most important aspects of clearing these examinations, and what the viewers would really like to know from you as to how you went about doing this. So let's start first with the foundation level course, which was earlier known as CPT. So when did you give that examination? And it was right after your 12th, right? And
Yeah.
how did you go about preparing for that exam?
Yeah, so CPT is like the first level, and it was a total MCQ based exam that time. So we usually start the classes along with 12th. So simultaneously two classes are going on. So 12th and CPT is going on together. And then once you're done with your boards, you have a span of around 2 months in which you completely focus on CPT, and then you appear for the exam. So that time I was like a very pretty sincere student from the very start. So in CPT also I used to attend classes regularly, get a hang of the technique to solve MCQs quickly. So I think that was very much important at that time, that how do you solve it quickly and in minimum time possible. So yeah, so I used to do that, and in the 2 months which we get solely for CPT, I made sure that I solve a lot of mock papers to actually see whether I'm able to complete the paper in time, and how is the approach going, and what works for me, what doesn't work. So that way I prepared in those 2 months, and the CPT was like a very easygoing level. So that time we didn't realize what is waiting ahead. So yeah,
Right.
so that was.
So they say that obviously there are some subjects that overlap, right? So in your 12th along with your CPT.
Right.
So were there any subjects that you found really difficult during this period of time, and how did you go about tackling these subjects?
Yeah, so in CPT, usually you have maths and accounts, which are really common. You study them in 11th, 12th, and then again in CPT. But a new subject that time was law. And law was introduced first time to us, and law is not a very easy subject to crack because you have that complicated language to understand and comprehend. So law was a subject which kind of was really scaring initially. But then gradually as you study it, it was interesting too.
Nice. So after clearing your CPT examination, the next step was obviously to appear for the IPCC exams, for which you get a gap of 9 months, right? So how did you go about preparing during these 9 months? What classes did you attend? Please tell us a little about that.
So I think IPCC is very challenging in two terms. Firstly, it is a switch from MCQ to the proper theory paper. And secondly, the time is very less. So in 9 months, you really need to complete your coaching of that very vast syllabus. And you also have to do a lot of self-study revisions to actually prepare for that exams. So that time, what I did was immediately after I got my CPT results, I joined the coaching without wasting much time, because the time is already less. So the coaching went on for around let's say 6 to 7 months, and in the last 2 to 3 months we had to do a lot of self-study. So the IPCC classes used to be for like 9 to 10 hours per day. So 9 to 10 hours you sit in class, and you again come home and you need to do a little bit revision also. So that you have to spend like 2 hours, and you do not do anything like this before. So it was again like, what is going on? So yeah, so that was there. But so I joined a coaching class which taught all subjects together. So we used to sit there for 9 to 10 hours, and we used to plan the sequence of the subjects and how do you actually go about. Again, they used to schedule a lot of tests every week, which would get you a very good practice of how do you write a full-fledged theory paper or a full-fledged paper, because that was a big switch that we made from CPT to IPCC. Yeah, so that was the whole journey of IPCC.
Okay, so when you write this examination, right, there are two ways of writing it. One is taking both the groups together, or one is doing one group in the month of May and the other in November. Right. So what do you think is the ideal approach that aspirants should ideally adopt? Should they do both groups together, or should it be based on their capability that I'm going to do one because it gets a little too taxing on me, to pun not intended, but yeah, so what do you suggest?
So I think the preference should be to actually go for both groups at one time. So initially the thought process should be that you have to give both together, because I think there are a lot of advantages of going this way. So you get a lot of set off marks, and you really clear that in one go, and there's no break, and in a flow you get it done. So I think there are definitely advantages of doing both groups at a time. So I think anyone should ideally target this. But if when the exams come closer, you really feel that you're very much underprepared, and if you would go for both together and you would really not be able to deliver, then maybe at that point of time you can take a decision to switch to maybe one group and focus on that.
Right.
But initially, as far as possible, try to go for both groups together.
Right. So you cleared your IPCC in the first attempt and you cleared both the groups.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you stood fourth. So how was that feeling at that point of time?
Yeah. So actually, I feel the rank in IPCC mattered to me much more than the rank in finals, because at that point of time, I never thought I could, achieve something on a national level. So, school topper is still okay, college topper is also okay, but then achieving something on a national level is altogether a very different ball game. And this being a professional course, it was like very, very different and not similar to what you do. So I think that really instilled a sense of self-confidence that, I am able to achieve something like this, and that made me realize my potential, that I can do this. So I think that was very big for me, something on national level, and you stand fourth. So yeah.
Great. So after clearing your IPCC, the next step was obviously to proceed with your articleship.
Right.
So how did that phase go? We were talking before and you mentioned that you did it with KPMG. So how was that experience with KPMG?
Yeah, so I think any rank holder in IPCC is very glad about the fact that now they would, get an easy entry into the big fours that you call.
Yes.
Yeah, so that time even I was going through the same phase that, okay, abhi rank aa gaya, you will get into a big four. So then I was kind of very much inclined towards tax. And KPMG tax is a pretty, KPMG is known for its taxation department. So that way I made this decision, let's go for KPMG and experience how it works in the corporate world.
Right. So post completion of that articleship, now it was time for the actual imtihan ki ghadi, as you call it, the final examination. Right. So how did you go about preparing for this exam? And were you at this state where, I'm now tired, I just want to get done with it? Or were you like, I'm still ready, I'm really motivated at this stage? How was it like?
Yeah, so what happens is after IPCC, in next 6 months, you join classes for your finals. So for a period of around 2 years, you only attend classes in the morning and then you do your articleship. So that time is like a good break from the entire this thing. You only have to focus on your articleship. But then as the exam approaches, then you have to balance a lot of things. So you have to balance your classes, your articleship, and then your self-study as well. And moreover, there's a good long break in between. So that actually kills the momentum big time. So you're not used to studying for 2 years and then suddenly you have to, get through this entire syllabus. So that is a very big challenge. So what I decided was that before I actually sit for self-study, I would try and build the momentum. So 3 to 4 months prior to the self-study period, I actually used to devote at least 2 hours per day. So that would actually help me inculcate that self-discipline and, rebuild that momentum which was lost. So I think this is very important, and a lot of people do not actually pay heed to this. And when they actually sit to study for those 12 long hours, they just can't do it because the momentum is killed. So that way I approached it. Then the study leave starts. So usually the study leave ranges from 4 to 5 months, where you are given a leave from your articleship and you have to only focus on your studies. Right. So that is like the most challenging part, because you're like completely cut off from everywhere and you just with your books, the ocean syllabus and you have to approach it. So yeah, that was the journey till my study leave.
Right. So during this entire period, were you someone who kind of locked yourself in a room for like 6-10 hours, more than that probably in a day? Or were you someone who thought that, I need my extracurricular activities along with this so that I can have a balanced approach? So were you someone who was only into your education and had a single-minded approach, or you were kind of doing a lot of things simultaneously so that you could also keep your mind off studies?
Yeah, so I think I was a little more focused towards the studies, at least 3-4 months closer to the exams, and I really had to give up on a lot of things which I used to do otherwise. But I always made sure that I also have enough things to actually cheer myself up or keep me motivated. So I used to try to talk a lot to my family and friends during that time as well, but no activities as such apart from studies.
Right. So okay. Let's talk about something that's trending all the time, which is the usage of social media. So
Right.
parents always think that it's a problem, whereas our generation
Right.
usually thinks of it as something that is used to pass time and something that is fun. So how much of that did you think played a role in your preparation, or did it affect it in any way, or were you completely averse and you did not care about what social media was and you were completely focused?
Yeah, so I think I can say that it was neither a cutoff nor it was a lot of time into it. So I used to decide that when I'm sitting for study for, let's say, 2 hours at a stretch, I would keep my phone aside and not even look at it. But then once I get a break after that 2 hours, I would definitely use it. So it was not like it was an extreme cutoff as well. And you can use it as in your breaks to refresh yourself maybe, and maybe talk to a few friends or see what's going on. So I think it was a self-control more of a thing and not a complete cutoff.
Right. Okay, Komal. So talking about the examination that was due to happen in the month of May 2020, but eventually got postponed due to the unfortunate pandemic, which is still prevalent today. It got postponed from May, went to June, July, and now eventually happened in November. So it's natural that somebody who was preparing for this exam was all ready to give it in the month of May. But for someone who didn't expect something like this to happen, what was your state at that point of time? I understand that it could be that somebody's mental state could get affected due to these things.
Yeah.
So what happened during that period?
So absolutely. So as I said that we try and prepare around 4 to 5 months before the final examination, and that time we actually dedicate a lot of hours per day. So we are always in that thought process that exams should come and get over completely so that we are free and we actually can do other things as well. And at that point of time, right 1 month before the exam, the lockdown happened, and then it went on, the postponement series actually started. So every time it used to get postponed, it was very disturbing because you had a plan in mind that you would approach in a particular way, and then it again gets postponed and you have to revise the plan once again and again revisit all the chapters, and you have to really continue that series of sitting for 10 to 12 hours a day and studying for so long. So I think that is very frustrating and disturbing, and at that point of time it really became very difficult to hold on that patience and motivation for so long.
Right.
So every time when the exams used to get postponed, I used to really be so frustrated, and I really used to keep the books inside for a few days at least, so that I do not let that negativity come in, because once you are very saturated, you cannot study further.
Right.
So every time I used to keep the books inside for a few days, I mean around 4 to 5 days, and completely divert myself from that particular phase. And I used to do things that I used to like, watch movies, talk to a lot of friends and this and that, and I used to again gather the motivation somehow to sit back, and again I used to make a further plan and go about it. So initially it was going fine up to 1 or 2 postponements, but then it was too much that 4 times the exams got postponed, and after that I really tried and reduced my hours at least, because I thought that if I continue going in the same pace, I would not be able to sustain till the end.
Right.
So I reduced my hours, I diverted myself more, indulged in other activities as well. But I did not give up in the end, because I always thought that if I have done so much up till now, why to give up when the exams are so close. So that time I somehow balanced those things there.
Great. So were there any of your classes that were done digitally post this, like on the internet?
No, so the classes were already done before the lockdown came in.
Okay, so now that we are in this pandemic world, it will be difficult to host classes physically with people. So what do you have to say to those aspirants who are now going to continue this journey or start this journey of CA with the fact that now everything is going to be online? So what do you have to say to those people?
Yeah, so definitely I think online gets a little difficult, because it's very difficult to hold on the concentration for so long when you're sitting alone with that laptop and the classes are going on. Plus the interaction is also reduced between the professors and the students. So yeah, definitely online has its own challenges, but this is the new normal, and it is very important important to adopt to this. So I think, yeah, but definitely it has its own advantages that you can actually watch those at your own convenience as well. Like before, we had to go to the classes for a particular time span, but now you can actually watch the videos as per your own convenience and so on. So I think people should actually try and adjust or adapt themselves to this online teaching that is introduced, because this is going to continue for some time as of now.
Do you believe personally that there is a difference between a rank holder and someone who's not a rank holder but has cleared the examination? Is there some X factor that a rank holder holds? What do you think that is?
So I think there is no X factor or some rocket science or some secret recipe to this. I only believe that there are a lot of things which I believe everyone knows, that you really need to plan your studies well, you need to dedicate a lot of hours, practice mock tests, but only a few actually execute or implement this, and that is where the difference comes. So actually, if you know a lot of things and then you actually implement it the right way, I think nothing is difficult and everything is achievable. So I think the difference only lies in the execution part of it.
Right. So Komal, during this entire stretch of these 5+ years, who are the people who you have considered as an inspiration during this period, who have really helped you, guided you, mentored you during this process?
Yeah, so I think mentors do have a very important role to play, because you need those guidance a lot of time. So I think I really had 2 or 3 friends. I am the kind of person, I would not listen to a lot of people, because that really confuses you more. So I had 2 to 3 people who I really trusted, and I thought that I could resonate with their strategies or their techniques. So I used to communicate with them whenever I needed any personal guidance or how do I go about now. So I think they used to really help me and show the path forward, and that really helps and makes things easy.
All right. So Komal, now getting into again the preparation strategies, what are some of the books that you used for your preparation, apart from the normal books that you get from the ICAI?
Yeah.
But were there any additional material that you were referring to? Were you going online and doing some research, or were there something else that you were doing different that kind of created that the fact that you became a rank holder? Was there something different that you did?
So I think regarding the resources, definitely the resources from the institute is the first preference that you should be giving to, because they are very much exhaustive, and if you study from that, there is nothing in the paper that you would not be able to attempt or go ahead with. But sometimes those books are really so very much exhaustive and very difficult to cover. So that time you really need to supplement it with some other books. So I personally preferred my classes notes, which I used to actually write, the handwritten notes which you have. And if you are studying from the books where you actually studied it from, so you can actually remember that time when the professor was explaining and you were actually making your own notes. So I think that really helps. So I personally used only the institute material and the classes books to actually prepare. And one thing which I did was I used to watch a lot of videos on YouTube. So a lot of professors used to upload a lot of revision videos on YouTube, and especially during the pandemic when it became very much difficult and you did not even want to see those books again. So that time these videos really helped, because you can at least just plug your earphones in and only listen for some time. So that was really very helpful in recalling what you've studied earlier.
And according to you, what would be the ideal sleep schedule for a person who is preparing for this exam, because we know how important it is? So what do you think should be the approach that is adopted by aspirants?
Yeah, so I think the sleep schedule really matters, and it definitely affects your productivity or your efficiency of studying. So I used to personally sleep good for 7 to 8 hours every day. A lot of people definitely take a hit on their sleep schedule, but I think that is not very recommended, because if your mind is not functioning properly, you won't be able to concentrate and be very efficient with your studies. The same amount of thing would take you more hours to prepare than if you're preparing it in a fresh mind.
Right.
So I think sleep schedule is very important, and at least 6 to 7 hours sleep is definitely something which is recommended.
All right. So Komal, take us through the day in the life of a topper. What goes behind successfully doing what you do. Please tell us.
Yeah, so I think my day in the life pretty much looked like this. So I used to wake up in the morning around 6. So firstly, I used to fresh up, and then when I used to sit, I used to make sure that first thing I do was to make a plan for the day. So it's very, very important that you know that how are you going to plan your day and what are you going to do, what will be the sequence and how you're going to allocate the time. So I used to take out around 15 to 20 minutes and plan the entire day beforehand so that I have a direction to go into. And then I used to start. So what I used to do is I used to break my day into sessions of around 2 to 3 hours each, wherein I used to sit at a stretch and study dedicatedly for those 2 hours maybe. And then after every session there used to be a break of, let's say, half an hour, 45 minutes, wherein I used to talk to my family, friends, and a little bit of chilling here and there. So I think that is how the day was planned. So except from the things which are inevitable like lunch, dinner, etc., and the few breaks that I took, the entire time used to be into studying only. So yeah, that is how it used to look like.
Right. So another important part about the examinations and this whole journey is the fact that you have to give a lot of mock tests.
Right.
So how did you go about preparing for these mock tests? What was the material that you referred to, and how did you fare in these particular examinations?
Yeah, so definitely I think mock tests are very important because they actually help you to realize beforehand what are the mistakes that you're committing, and so that you do not commit them in the main exam. It also helps you to plan your paper, ensure time management so that you complete your paper on time, and what should you do first, what should you keep at the last. So all this really, you get to know when you actually attempt mock tests. So I usually prefer that you should at least write 2 papers of a particular subject before you go for the final exam, because that way you can actually analyze a lot of your mistakes beforehand, and you're very much prepared and comfortable with the pattern and on the main day of your exams. So I personally wrote 2 papers of every subject, and how I used to plan it is, so I used to do 1 complete reading and 2 revisions. So after the first read, I used to write 1 paper of that particular subject, and after first revision, I used to write another paper. And I think very much important here is to analyze those mocks. It's not only about writing. If you're writing it and not analyzing it, then it's like there's no point out of it. So analyzing it is very important, and you have to be in the correction mode always. That okay, if I did this wrong this time, I have to remember it and not repeat it the next time. So that's how it went.
Great. So the one more important aspect of it is this, what you mentioned a little earlier, was that leave that you got from your articleship of 4 months. So how is that period like? What should a normal aspirant do during those 4 months, which are extremely crucial?
Right. So I think, as I mentioned earlier as well, my strategy was that I want to do a complete reading once and 2 revisions to supplement it, because in the first reading you usually can't retain a lot of things and you really need repeated revisions for the same. So I think my structure was built around this, that 3 times maybe I would want to cover the syllabus. And before going for that particular leave, planning is very important. I personally emphasize a lot on planning, that because if you really go about without a plan in hand, you will get lost somewhere in the middle, because the syllabus is very vast. So I think planning beforehand is very important. So initially I used to decide the sequence of my subjects. So I am a person who does only 1 subject at a particular time, so that I complete that subject holistically and exhaustively from all perspectives. So I used to plan the sequence of my subjects. I used to allocate a number of days for those subjects. So let's say 1 subject in 7 days for the first reading, and maybe also have a lot of buffer for contingencies, and maybe you are always bound to exceed your schedule a little, so that way you need to have those buffers as well. So that way I really planned my 4 months. And you really need to realize that if the first time you're doing a particular subject in, let's say, 7 to 8 days, next time you have to do it in half of the time that you've taken, because you do not have a lot of time there, right? And before the exams, you have to cover that entire subject in 1 day. So you have to be very much prepared for that 1 day especially. You have to do a lot of summarizations and a lot of, you have to decide that, okay, on the last day I'm going to read only this, and you have to mark sums which you want to actually refer on the last day maybe. So I think that really helps.
Right. And what tips would you give to someone who's appearing for the exam on that particular day? How to calm your nerves, you're giving one of the biggest exams of your life. How do you go into this? How do you approach it?
Yeah, so I think that I would say that 1 day before every exam is the game changer, because your results would only depend on what you're writing in those 3 hours. your entire span of preparation would only be fruitful if you could actually deliver your best in those 3 hours.
Yes.
So you really have to be very much prepared. So firstly, not panicking is the most important thing, because CA papers are usually very out of the box, and as you actually try and see those papers, you start saying that, okay, this is also I don't know, this is something I don't know, and then it, the panic really gets in. So I think you have to be really very calm, and you have to take enough sleep so that your mind actually functions properly for those 3 hours.
Right.
And if there's a paper which is really difficult, I would always prefer that you try and find those 1 or 2 questions which you actually know properly. Start with that. It automatically builds up your confidence to actually approach the balance paper.
Right.
And then once you are through with those questions, you can actually get a lot of confidence to approach the.
Right. So likewise, I mean, there are people who write this exam and do really well, clear the exam, but there are also certain sections who do not clear the exam, unfortunately. So what is your message to those people, who fail to clear it the first time, but of course there is a definite possibility to bounce back in the next examination? So what is your message to those people?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that they should focus on should be detecting their problem area. So I think if they are doing the same thing which they did the first time, there is no there's no point of that. So I think it's very important that once you have your results, you actually sit down and you detect what went wrong, where did you go wrong, and what is that thing that you really have to work on right now.
Do a SWOT analysis.
Exactly. SWOT analysis is very, very important. So I think if you do that and you take into considerations the kind of improvements that you have to make, I think you will definitely make it the next.
Is that you have written countless number of mock examinations. So how did you fare in these examinations? What was your score like? And how did it, ensure that you prepared well for your final examination?
Yeah. So I think when initially you write a particular mock test paper, you are bound to not score that well. So I think this is very important that you do not take it very negatively and be bogged down that, okay, I'm not scoring, so I'm not going to score in the final exams as well. In fact, I believe that the more mistakes you make in the mocks, the more scope for improvement, and you will do better in the final exams.
Right.
So my scores were not up to the mark initially when I used to write the first mocks, definitely. But then after every mock, I used to analyze and have a particular takeaway. And I got better usually when I appeared for more mocks. And the final exam was really the best one.
Yes. Okay, Komal. So my next question to you is, now that you have those prestigious 2 letters attached to your name, CA, what is next for you? What do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years?
So I think as of now, I really want to get into corporate and explore a corporate career as of now and work with my dream companies. So yeah, that is the plan as of now. And I think as the interest develops, I would want to actually master or gain a lot of expertise in one particular area that I actually like the most.
Right. And what are some of the dream companies that you are targeting at the moment that you really want to work at?
So I would want to actually work with an FMCG as of now, because I think the consumer facing aspect of it really makes it very interesting. They have a lot of new product launches and new initiatives that they actually do. So I would want to work with them. And I think in the FMCG sector, the leader is Unilever, and that would be my dream company as of now.
All right. Thank you, Komal, for answering all our questions. I'm sure the viewers have got a lot of valuable information here, and we really hope this helps you in your preparation. Now let's move to our fun segment, which is the rapid fire round, wherein I'm going to ask you a series of fun questions, some situational questions, and you can answer them however you like. And if we think your answers are rapid and full of fire, we will give you something special from our team. All right. So Komal, welcome to the rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Yeah, all set.
Okay. So here's your first question. If you were the Prime Minister of our country, what is the first thing you would do?
So I think if I were the Prime Minister, the first thing I would do is definitely work on eradicating poverty, because I think that is the major issue that India is currently facing.
Right. So Komal, your second question. If you were to be a chat show host, who would be your first guest and why?
So I think the first guest would be Karan Johar, because I was a very big fan of his show Coffee with Karan, and I would want to make him sit the other side and answer the tough questions that he usually asks his guests which come on the show.
All right, nice. If you could travel to any place in the world at this very moment using a teleporter, which place would that be and why?
So I think the place would be Switzerland, because I think that is the city of my dreams, and it's very peaceful and very serene. So I think, that
Nice.
would be the place.
Your fourth question is, if you could play a character from any movie, any role that you really admire, which one would that be?
So I think the character would be Naina from Ye Jawani Hai Diwani, because I think a lot of my friends tell me that you resonate with her a lot. So I think, that would be the opportunity that I would take.
All right. If you had a superpower, and this is your last question, if you had a superpower, what would you like that to be? If you could just have that power for one day, what would you use it for?
So I think I would want to read other person's mind,
Okay.
because that would be, I think, interesting and hilarious as well.
Right. So Komal, that was a great rapid fire round. There were some really nice answers, and we believe that you're worthy enough to win the hamper from our team.
Thank you so much.
Here you go. This is from our side.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Komal. We've almost come to the end of our show.
Okay.
Is there any message that you would like to share with the aspirants who are watching this show, and any piece of advice that could really motivate them? Please share it with them.
Yeah. So I think the one thing that I would want to tell to all the aspirants would be that the most important thing in the CA exam is definitely the level of determination that you need. The course is really very, very vast, and you really need to put in a lot of efforts. But I believe that if you really have a burning desire in you that you want to crack this through, and you're willing to put in all the required efforts to actually achieve what you want, there's nothing which is stopping you. So just keep going and keep up the spirit.
Thank you for the lovely message, Komal. So here at Chamomile Tea with Toppers, we have this ritual wherein at the end of every episode, we ask you to tag a topper. So is there somebody who you would like to tag who could feature in our show the next episode? Please let us know.
Yeah, so I think in CA usually most of the toppers are boys, and very few girls actually make it to the top. So I have a little bias, and I would want to actually nominate a girl who has been a topper. So I would want to nominate Jirajvi. She's an All India rank 3 in the very same attempt in which I appeared. So you can call her for the next time.
Sure. So Jirajvi, we look forward to meeting you soon. And we look forward to asking you questions and picking your brain and understanding your strategies and how you prepared for the examination. So look forward to seeing you soon. With that, we almost come to the end of our show. Any last thoughts that you have for being on our show today?
Yeah, so I think it was a very great time which I had. Thank you for the entire session, and really enjoyed it thoroughly. And I hope that this session is really helpful to everyone who's watching, and they can have really good insights out of this.
Yeah. So before I let you go, I'm going to ask you the last two questions of this show.
Okay.
Firstly, what do you feel? Because what I've read recently is the fact that a lot of women are now taking up these examinations and are faring really well. And I read somewhere that nearly 40% of the total were women this time that were writing the exam. So what do you have to say that there are more women who are entering this profession?
Yeah, so I think definitely the number of women have increased, and this is because I believe because of the nature of this course. So the course is really designed that you can complete it at a very early age if you really do it right the first time, and you can complete it along with your graduation. So there is no separate time that you have to spare for this course. Moreover, it is very it is very flexible. It offers you a lot of options that after becoming a CA, you can actually even go for coaching, or you can maybe go for entrepreneurship, go for a job, your own practice. So a lot of options are open, and this flexibility is, I believe, the reason behind a lot of people choosing this course over others.
Right. And thank you. And before we let you go, I believe that you play chess. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions to test your knowledge at chess. So let's see if you can top this as well. So your first question is, who is the #1 ranked player in the world today in chess?
So is it Magnus Carlsen?
Absolutely right. Secondly, and this is the last question of the show, we all know that Vishwanathan Anand is ranked #1 in chess, but who is ranked #2 in India?
So that is P. Hare Krishna.
Is there anything she can't do? Thank you, Komal, for being a part of our show. It was an absolute pleasure having you with us, and we do hope that you have the best of careers going forward, and we wish you all the best.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Komal.
Thank you.
So that was it from our side for this episode. We will see you soon in yet another episode of Chamomile Tea with Toppers. Until then, do take very good care of yourselves and stay safe.
Life and freedom.